The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz is a compelling exploration of how the abundance of choices in modern life, contrary to expectation, often leads to anxiety, dissatisfaction, and paralysis rather than liberation. At its core, the book challenges the assumption that more choice automatically equates to more freedom and, by extension, greater happiness. Schwartz, a psychologist, makes a strong case that while choice is essential to autonomy and well-being, there is a point at which it becomes counterproductive. Through research, anecdotes, and psychological insights, he crafts a story about the emotional and cognitive consequences of living in a consumer-driven society that equates variety with value. The book opens with a deceptively simple premise: in a supermarket with 175 salad dressings, are we really freer or happier? Schwartz uses this as a metaphor for the explosion of options across all domains of life. From dating apps to health insurance plans, career paths to toothpaste brands. He argues that the modern individual, far from rejoicing in boundless possibility, often crumbles under its weight. This is not simply a philosophical argument but one rooted in cognitive science. The brain, Schwartz explains, is not designed to efficiently navigate such complexity without incurring emotional costs. As Schwartz guides the reader through the psychological terrain of decision-making, he introduces the distinction between two types of decision-makers: maximizers and satisficers. Maximizers seek the absolute best in every situation. They compare, research, and ruminate, constantly fearing that a better option is just around the corner. Satisficers, by contrast, settle for good enough, applying practical filters and moving on. Schwartz illustrates how maximizers, despite often making objectively better choices, report lower satisfaction, higher anxiety, and a greater incidence of regret. This concept becomes one of the book's central ideas, making it highly relatable and actionable. The author takes time to deconstruct the psychological impact of increased choices. With each additional option, the potential for regret increases, either pre-decision, paralysis due to too many paths, or post-decision, wondering whether another choice might have been better. This regret is amplified by the phenomenon of counterfactual thinking, where we obsess over the imagined outcomes of the roads not taken. The emotional residue of these unrealized options erodes the pleasure we take in the decisions we do make, leading to a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction. Moreover, Schwartz emphasizes the role of social comparison in heightening this dilemma. In a world where people publicly curate their lives on social media, the pressure to make optimal choices is relentless. He explains that even when we make objectively good decisions, choosing a fulfilling job or buying a stylish coat, we can feel deflated if we perceive others as doing better. This introduces a second layer of complexity. Our perception of choice quality is often shaped not by inherent satisfaction but by external benchmarks. The book does not merely diagnose the problem, it weaves in strategies and mindsets that can help mitigate the harmful effects of too much choice. One such strategy is the deliberate imposition of constraints. Schwartz suggests that by narrowing our options, through routines, trusted brands, or personal guidelines, we can preserve mental energy and improve contentment. Far from being restrictive, self-imposed limits often free us from the tyranny of second-guessing and the endless search for the perfect option. Another powerful theme is the illusion of control. Schwartz explains how modern consumers are encouraged to believe that every choice reflects personal agency. But as the number of decisions we face daily multiplies, this sense of control becomes deceptive. Rather than empowering us, it burdens us with responsibility for every outcome, including disappointment. He describes this as a responsibilization of happiness, where any dissatisfaction is interpreted as a failure to choose wisely, not as a flaw in the system itself. Throughout the book, Schwartz uses real-life vignettes and empirical studies to illustrate his points. From retirement plans that paralyze workers into inaction, to students overwhelmed by elective options, he paints a detailed picture of decision fatigue. These stories make the abstract theories tangible, reinforcing the idea that what we face is not a personal failing but a structural issue in how society frames freedom and satisfaction. One particularly poignant section discusses how choice affects relationships. Schwartz explores how the rise of dating apps and the cultural focus on finding the one has led to a commodification of love, where partners are endlessly assessed and compared. This pursuit of the ideal partner often prevents emotional investment in real relationships, feeding a cycle of chronic dissatisfaction. The emotional resonance of this point extends far beyond romantic life. It speaks to how the abundance of options can erode commitment and deepen restlessness. As the book progresses, Schwartz links the proliferation of choices to a rise in clinical symptoms such as depression and anxiety. He is careful not to suggest that choice overload causes mental illness, but rather that it exacerbates underlying vulnerabilities. The constant demand to optimize every decision can be a powerful stressor, particularly for individuals already navigating emotional or psychological strain. Importantly, the paradox of choice also examines how the market economy thrives on discontent. Companies benefit from our relentless pursuit of better. Advertisers frame choice as a moral imperative. If you're not happy, it's because you haven't bought the right product, chosen the right career, or found the right lifestyle. Schwartz peels back this ideological layer, exposing how consumerism plays into our psychological tendencies, encouraging endless comparison and a fear of settling. He proposes a cultural shift toward valuing good enough as a legitimate and respectable outcome. Satisficing, in this light, becomes not laziness but wisdom, a strategy that honors human limitations. He draws on philosophical traditions, including Buddhism and Stoicism, to support this reorientation toward acceptance and presence over optimization and perfection. This is where the book shifts from psychology to almost spiritual advice: reduce expectations, appreciate what you have, and stop chasing illusions. Near the end, Schwartz confronts the reader with a key question: what do we actually gain by always striving for the best? His conclusion is unsettling but liberating. Often, the gains are marginal, but the costs are profound. The chase for perfect choice robs us of peace and engagement in the present. Satisfaction, he argues, is not the result of having everything but of valuing what we already possess. In Bringing Everything Together, Schwartz calls for a redefinition of freedom, not as infinite choice, but as meaningful, manageable decision-making. He invites institutions, marketers, educators, and individuals to reconsider the environments they create and inhabit. Schools can guide students more clearly, employers can simplify benefits, and individuals can embrace rituals and habits that remove trivial choices from daily life. Ultimately, the paradox of choice offers more than critique. It is a roadmap for living more lightly in a world of heavy decisions. Schwartz's storytelling, while grounded in research, resonates emotionally. He is not asking readers to reject freedom but to reclaim it, by becoming mindful of how too much choice can actually obscure the things that truly matter. The book leaves us not with despair, but with a quiet sense of agency. In a culture obsessed with options, we can still choose simplicity.